So I've got this concrete fountain that I'm working on repairing, and I figured it'd be a good idea to make a video about what I've done to it, in case anyone else has a broken fountain of their own that they would like to refurbish instead of buying a new one, because these are pretty expensive, so it's definitely worth the time and effort, especially now with this coronavirus shit going on. So I figured I'd make a video and hopefully save a couple more fountains and help people out. So this one was in really rough shape. It's made by a company called Massarelli, and the name was inscribed on the inside. I don't know if you can kind of see that right there. So I looked it up online and didn't really find anything worthwhile. This is literally just a diagram. Put the three pieces together and fill it with water. Whoop-de-doo. But I did some research, and I had some existing knowledge that I was able to repair this, and so I figured I'd make a video and explain what I've done. So this is the top part. Obviously this is the bowl. This is the little ornament, the statue on top that's got plumbing for the water to go in. And then this is called the pump house. This little area here is sunken down below the rest of the dish, and it lets the water in, and the pump hides in there. This pipe goes all the way through to the bottom, and that's where the cord goes through. And then this whole bird bath looking thing sits on this stump here, and that's on the plastic. So this is all going to get painted. That's the next step, but I figured this would be a perfect time to talk about what I've done. So this was in like really terrible shape. Let's see, what's this side? So this is where the water goes in, this little cave looking thing here, a little opening. So that fills up the pump house with water and allows the pump to get water after it's come out of the top and trickled down the little spouts here. And so it was broken. 3 giant pieces broke off of this thing, which was good because it's better than having a bunch of small pieces to put back together. So here is one line, cracked all the way to the inlet, cracked straight down, so that was one piece. Then this piece went all the way to here. Yeah, and then that was cracked all the way down like that. And then this third piece is right here. Oh no, I lied. This is one section here. But this one went underneath this one. It was a weird little situation. Anyways, it was really jacked up. So what I did, and you can kind of see, there was a couple pieces that broke off of here, and I just put this on in for good measure. But what I did is I went to Menards, and I'm sure Home Depot has the same thing if you don't have a Menards, but I got this tube of concrete repair. It's made by Akona, and it goes into a caulking gun, and it comes out, it's just like a sandy paste kind of stuff. It's not very sticky like caulking, but it's kind of sandy. It's very easy to work with. So I put it in the caulking gun, and first I pressure washed this whole thing. This was filthy, absolutely like black. So I cleaned it up first, pressure washed it. Then I took a brush and I got all the loose particles off of the cracks. And then I went and I put a nice line of this concrete repair on each of the edges. And then I pushed them together, and then obviously it all came oozing out because I used entirely too much. But then I took a glove and I smeared the paste over the crack to kind of just like fill it in, because it was such a huge crack and it's been broken for so long, so there's a lot of gaps. So I filled in all the gaps with that material as well, and then smoothed it out. And then, yeah, it dries relatively quickly. I think like 24 hours it said you can paint it, which is, or I forgot what it said. Whatever. Look at the instructions on whatever you buy. Anyways, so I did that, and then I smeared it out. On the inside, I smeared it as well. Made a lot more of a mess, but nobody sees that. So that's how I reattached all the broken pieces. I've seen videos where people have used JB Weld. I think this is probably a better idea because this is designed for this. I mean, I can pick this whole thing up by the broken pieces, and this is very heavy, solid concrete. So I think that's a pretty solid repair. So I did that, and then just now, as I was going to paint it, I was like, it's very abrasive. It's like very rough. And so I was like, oh, because I'm going to dry brush it, I'm going to give it a base coat of like tan and like a beige color. And what's that? So then I'm going to top it off with a dry brush, like a darker, like a blackish brown, just to highlight all the details. This is dirt, this is not paint. I got as much as I could out of it with the pressure washer, but hopefully the paint should have, these pieces, have no problem adhering. So I didn't want to dry brush it and then catch all of the repairs that would highlight it, because it's all elevated. And so I didn't want to highlight the texture of the repair, so I was like, let's see if it sands. Well, it turns out it sands incredibly well. Very little effort has to go into sanding it, and it smooths right out. I didn't sand the inside because obviously it's pointless. But I don't know if you can tell, it's pretty smooth. I missed a spot there. I have to touch that up. So yeah, pretty much straightforward, just to squeeze it out with the caulking gun, and then use that as the glue to glue all these pieces together, and it holds very, very well. I think that tube was like $5 or less. It was like under $5. So definitely a worthwhile investment for a $300 fountain. But on this thing, I was looking at it and I was like, a couple broken pieces from the snow, because this got left out all the time in the winter here in Chicago. So I don't know if you can see it, this different color here. So this whole section was broken off, and I played with it before. I kind of like stuck all the pieces together and then put a pump in there to see if it how it worked, and it just kind of like ran out the side there. It looked like crap. So I was like, I don't like that. So what I did, this Harvey's Plumber's a putty epoxy, or epoxy. What did I call it? Harvey's Plumber's epoxy putty. Wow. So this stuff, it's like a sausage in there. It's like an outer layer and an inner layer. And so when you take a knife and you cut a slice off, and then you knead it together until it mixes, and then it forms an incredibly strong, once it cures, an incredibly strong material. And I've used it on a cast aluminum lantern. I filled in a bunch of holes with it, and boy, is that shit strong. So you can drill it. It's got like all these wild uses on it. I don't know where I got this from, probably Menards. But like there's all kinds of stuff. Electrical, like it's just wild. But it is rock solid. I don't know if you can hear that. But it sounds, it is like seriously strong. So I put the putty in there and I just kind of like smoothed it out. I am by no means an artist. So you can see my thumbprint in there, but that's not a big deal. So I just kind of like guessed what the old part looked like and then molded it out of the putty, and I think it'll be perfect. I'm also not a cinematographer, if you can't tell. Also, my little friend up here, his beak was snapped off, so I really botched this. The first time I did it, it looked much better, but his beak was pointing down, so I tried to point it upwards, and I fucked it up. So, little issues there. But once it's painted, I don't think I'll have any. Definitely not noticeable. But it looks a lot better than him not having a beak at all. You can see where it was broken. So, this guy, broken too, but not as bad. So I think once you paint it and you don't see the gray spot, I think it'll be fine. So otherwise, I mean, paint-wise, this isn't in that bad a shape. But I want to just give it a whole nice coat. I looked up, like I said, I looked up that fountainette. They don't make this exact model, but they make something incredibly similar, and they had a cool paint scheme on it. It was like beige with the dark brown dry brush, and so I'm definitely going to try that on this thing. I could paint all of the details. I mean, I can like paint this like all of the leaves green and the birds brown and whatever, like, but that would be like incredibly gaudy. I don't think that's what we want. So anyways, so I did some research on that, and that's another thing I wanted to share. So I just came back from Menards again, my favorite store in case you can't tell, and I got this Pittsburgh Ultra. Basically, I went to the paint counter and I was like, what's the cheapest paint that you got? Now, I didn't go just any paint. This is 100% acrylic latex. And I did some research online about painting concrete statuary, and there's a good video out there that explains painting bare concrete statues, but I just adapted his instructions to a pre-painted one because this is 99% complete. So he says to use a watered down latex paint to do your first coat, so that it like soaks into the bare concrete and like kind of stains it and really locks it in for good long lasting coverage. So do that first. This has already got a factory finish on it. I'm just touching it up basically. There's little spots here and there, but that's not a big deal. So this is basically my base coat, and then I'm going to go over it with this Pittsburgh Ultra. The color I'm using is Brandied Pear. After some serious debate, I picked that color. Hopefully it's close to what the factory used, or at least it looks better than this. I could have just gone with a white. The Zinsser, I think, makes like a white waterproof paint, but I thought that was a little boring. Just plain white, so I'm gonna try and spruce it up with this. So yeah, so you make sure you use acrylic latex paint for your final coat. I think that's about it. I've got a new pump for it right here. I've had this laying around for a while. I believe Sunterra was Menard's brand, but this is pretty old. I just never used it for anything. So that's gonna go in there. And then I had a piece of clear PVC tubing. This seems to have disappeared. That's awesome. So that's going to connect to the bottom of the statue here, and then the pump goes in here, cord goes through there, and then through the pedestal, and then out to the outlet. So pretty straightforward assembly, but I just wanted to share my experiences with this Akona concrete repair. It fills and seals cracks in concrete surfaces, it says, and I believe that to be pretty true. So yeah, use that to patch up broken pieces, then use the plumber's putty to fabricate new and missing pieces, like chipped off parts, like this, the edge of this cup here, and the beak, and that's it.